Hey everybody, I hope you are doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. If you're new to my channel, I do a lot of political readings at least twice a week. I also do spiritual readings. I do new moon and full moon readings. I combine sort of a journalistic approach. I used to be a journalist, newspaper. So I combine a journalistic approach with the woo-woo and the spiritual. We go to the guides and get further insight into a lot of what's happening today in the world. I will be doing we've got a full moon in Leo coming up on August 5th. So before that, probably around the 2nd, maybe Friday of this week, I will do a pick a card reading for the new moon in Leo. You all really seem to like that. I love doing it. It's a challenge because as if you watch me, you know I mix a bunch of decks. That's just how spirit leads me. I really enjoy the work. Thank you again for all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate your support. It just motivates and encourages me to keep going, keep giving you good content. For those of you who, especially in the political readings, you all have opinions, and I really welcome that. I love this. This is a community. I want my channel to function as a community. As long as everybody's respectful of one another, tolerant of one another, we can agree to disagree. It's all good, but we also learn from one another. So much of what we've been through in this, last couple of years, and certainly these last months, has been really challenging, and we do need to stay open-minded. One thing, my last video, I didn't try to predict Kamala Harris's VP pick, but what I did do, I went to Spirit and we all took a look at what we saw as the leading contenders and who seemed to be coming out at the top of that pack, which at that time was Josh Shapiro. Somebody let me know, few of you let me know, people let me know, listen, Afefe, why wasn't Tim Waltz on your list? I'll be perfectly honest, I'm always going to keep it real with you. He was not on my radar, you all, when I sat down to do that reading. Spirit did not put him on my radar at all. So I apologize for that. And since then, and it seemed like as soon as I saw those comments, boom, 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 we started seeing Waltz all over the news everywhere. I will say I'm not going to read on that today. We know that her VP announcement, Harris is going to make an announcement by the 7th. So it's coming up in the next few days. If I feel led from Spirit, I'll do a quick peek and see if I can do get a more accurate prediction on who it will be. I see the advantages of Tim Waltz out of Minnesota. He certainly could be an incredible counter-offensive to J.D. Vance. And I get, and his whole, that whole terminology of, that the Trump situation is just weird, right? And then you heard Kamala Harris talking about it all being weird and then just sort of took off. We know the social media world that we live in right now. So it was just, everything became weird. So Tim Waltz, I see it. I get it. I get why some of you said, hey, keep your eye on him. He's definitely a contender. Let's see. Let's just see. Again, if I'm led to it, I'll look at it again. But today, you all, and let's give it up for the white dudes for Kamala last night on the call. What was it? Well, it's hard to, we hear all sorts of different numbers. But let's just say some said 60,000, some said 150. Let's meet in the middle and say at least 100,000 people, right? Jeff Bridges, Pete Buttigieg, Pritzker, all sorts of people were on the call. Politicos, as well as just average white dudes, right? Incredible. Raised almost $4 million. And so that Zoom call has been, as many of you know, one of a series of Zoom calls. What kicked it off last week was the sororities, the black women who got on the call, and then that went from there, then it was the white women, and then it was this and that and the other. So we may see some others. Really excited today in Atlanta. We know that Georgia is a crucial state. It's going to be a hotbed once again during this election. So Kamala Harris is visiting the state again. She's been there a number of times. She's going back again today, this Tuesday, the 30th. And her guest artist performing for her will be Megan Thee Stallion, none other than. There are, I know, in some mainstream communities in society, there's some questions or opinions, strong opinions about Megan Thee Stallion, who is a rapper. She is very body positive, so therefore she wears a lot of her entertainment attire is very revealing, very bearing. She's got that padonkadonk in her little rear section. But here's the thing, where what she's doing, and when we contrast that with the trad wives movement on the MAGA side, her point is, I'm not doing this to be hypersexual or to go in that direction. I do this because I claim agency and ownership over my body, which is a huge part of the platform of the Democratic ticket this year, with women's rights and to have agency over their bodies, reproductive rights, IVF, etc., etc. So I think that's actually a really brilliant choice, that not only bringing in the younger crowds to get them on board with the Kamala Harris campaign, but that larger message of women's power, women's empowerment, and even in those areas where it may seem on the surface as something that would be objectionable to certain people, when you look at it, Megan Thee Stallion makes no excuses for who she is. She has a fascinating story, fascinating documentary about her. She was shot by a boyfriend. People didn't believe her. She's just been through some incredible things. And so to have her aligned with the campaign, I think that is really a stroke of genius on their part. Really interesting to see what comes out of that. All right, you all. Now I'm about ready to get to some cards for you. Here's the thing. Trump came out, what was it, yesterday? Yesterday or day before? Day before maybe. And said he was appealing to Christian voters. And you all heard it by now. And he said, just vote this one time and it'll all be fixed. You don't have to worry about it after this. And so the world was like, did he just really say that out his mouth that plainly? Like, we knew that this was heading towards authoritarianism. We knew that this was about, I'll be a dictator on day one. But did he just literally say that out his mouth? I just need you to vote this one time. You don't ever have to worry about it again. That was that, it'll all be fixed, he said. Now, that in the face of him also declaring that he knows nothing about Project 2025. We know better, and I have to say, this video and all other in politics and otherwise are for entertainment purposes only. So he knows nothing about Project 2025. However, one of its aims, Project 2025, is to reform and totally deconstruct government as we know it and put its own version of what government should be in its place, taking us back, some say, to the 40s and 50s. I am going to suggest and go to the guides today to say rooted in slavery. Bear with me. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I get turned off by that, like many of you. However, I ran across something, and I will link it below, that was an eye-opener for me, and I started connecting some dots. This Project 2025 document, you all, and the people behind it, including, I'm not saying that 45 was a part of the authorship of it in any way, but certainly he understands what it is, and he understood who was behind it and why he is aligned with it, as is his running mate, J.D. Vance, who, not going to look good for him. I want to look at J.D. Vance. I see him, Spirit is saying, my guides have been saying, he is a lost soul, you all. He is not only, he's dangerous, but he is a lost soul, because he's in a whirlwind. Spirit showed me an image of him in a whirlwind of people who are going to use him to their advantage, i.e. Peter, I don't know if it's Theil or Teal, so forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, but Peter Theil, billionaire, tech billionaire, who Vance used to work for, put all these millions of dollars behind him to help Vance get elected to the Senate. He has some interesting connections to Project 25 as well, Project 2025 as well. So here's the deal. Kevin Roberts, Heritage Foundation, J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to his book. We talked about that. I did a post about that. It's been all over the news. That was, many strikes have been coming out against Vance. Like, people are like, whoa, Trump, you thought you were doing the right thing, but you didn't. So even while Trump may want to deny it all he wants to, it's proof positive where J.D. Vance is concerned. His ties to Kevin Roberts and Kevin Roberts' ties to Project 2025 through the Heritage Foundation, concrete. You can't make it up. That's not conjecture by any stretch of the imagination. Now, what's interesting is I don't know what made me look at it. The guides led me to it, but I just started looking into Kevin Roberts a little bit, and I came across Roberts wrote for his doctoral thesis. He wrote, it was published by the University of Texas at Austin. This is going back a ways, 2003. But again, connecting the dots, how you go from this thesis up, keep going in his conservative career up to Project 2025, right? And now writing this book, How to Remake America. What are his long-term goals and plans, you all? This is not about Trump. This is not even about J.D. Vance, who's getting sucked in. But I digress. The title of Kevin Roberts' thesis is Slaves and Slavery in Louisiana, the Evolution of Atlantic World Identities. I'm going to hold that up for you. And I will put a link to this if you click on this, there's a thing on this page where you can click and get the whole text. It's almost 300 pages. I did not read the whole thing. I kind of just went, I went through and cherry picked some things that pinged me from that Spirit gave me. But here's the deal. Through the lens of slavery, all things tying back to Project 2025, through the lens of slavery, Kevin Roberts talks in this thesis about the ways that slaves were basically indoctrinated into Catholicism, and how Catholicism served as sort of a melting pot for reshaping their identities. What he says, the evolution of Atlantic world identities. Slaves having come from throughout the diaspora. Okay. So he goes through all, and he makes all of it's a really interesting, it's an interesting thesis. He even goes into the whole realm of hoodoo and the Congolese and all of that. And I was like, okay, Kevin, let me see what you got. He approached it from the academic standpoint, but I've lived some of that. That's part of my spiritual path. So I was like, let me see what you got. But he basically, what he's getting at, you all, and this is where, again, it goes back to Project 2025. This remaking or reshaping of American government based on an ideology. In this thesis, a lot of this centers around Catholicism, that he sees the Catholic Church. And it's true, in many African spiritual traditions, it does incorporate a level of Catholicism, because Catholicism provided a gateway, a socially acceptable gateway for people to worship. But in truth, they were still honoring some of their traditional practices. Okay. So it's interesting that he took that route going back to slavery, because it involves, how do you take a disparate society, different cultures, different ways of being, different racial dynamics, and put them through a sieve, in this case the Catholic Church, to produce a certain social or socioeconomic result. Okay? Now, Project 2025, we've heard a lot of what their intentions are around education, around government, around the right women's bodies and their right to have agency over all of these control mechanisms. However, what really struck me, and this takes me to J.D. Vance, J.D. Vance just converted to Catholicism in 2019. As he was gearing up, had linked up with Peter Theil, staunch Catholic as well, hooked up with Peter Theil, who put him through, gave him, fed all this money into Vance's campaign, basically got him into the Senate. He writes, and I will put a link to this article as well, in 2021, Vance wrote a 6,000 word opus, praising Peter Thiel for being responsible, or largely responsible, for changing his whole perspective and his whole dynamic on spirituality and religion and religious beliefs and Christ. He himself, Vance, had gone through a period of basically quasi-evangelical background, his so-called hillbilly elegy, but not staunch. And then he went through, from what I understand, in his college days, his frat boy days, or whatever he was doing, he went through a period of atheism when, where he didn't want any of it. He didn't want to deal with any of it. And so then as he came out of, he published his book in 2016, right? He gets national attention. The book hits a bestseller list. People start looking at him. He decides, hey, maybe I got something going on here. Peter Thiel steps in and says, guess what? I got this money. I see this future for you. I will put this money into you to help you get into the Senate. And, 2019, he converts to Catholicism. He does all praises to Peter. And then on the flip side of that, I'm not sure. I haven't been able to track when exactly he and Kevin Roberts linked up. But here's what's also interesting. Part of Project 2025, you all, is the whole notion of the going back to, secular families, man, woman, that's what constitutes a real family. That's what constitutes marriage. Peter Thiel is gay. And if I get it right, he's married and has a child with his husband. So I just think there's going to be at some point, and this is now I'm ready. I know y'all like, get to the cards, Fefe. Now I'm ready to go to spirit. I'm asking the guys to give me some clarity around this, because it feels like there's this convergence of, you got the Kevin Roberts vision with his wife and 4 kids on one side. You got the Peter Thiel version on the other side. I'm gay. I'm openly gay. If I'm not mistaken, he announced this at the 2016 Republican convention. He was a featured speaker. Peter Thiel. Featured speaker at the 2016 convention, but that was a very different Trump race than this race. This is the Christians, please vote for me just this one time and we'll never have to do it again. So remember the Bible that came out for sale earlier on in Trump's campaign, right? So there's this 2024 race has really stepped into the religious realm, the evangelical realm. And that's not by any means. The Catholic Church is just a piece of that, of course, right? It runs the whole gamut of Christianity. But within these so-called stakeholders, these wannabe power makers, and I think the deal is Kevin Roberts has long-ranging plans to ascend into a mantle of power. That's what he sees. Trump is just a mouthpiece, and Trump's popularity serves the purpose to gather the MAGA faithful. But it's never been about him serving truly another 4 years. He's a prop. He's a tool to get the people to coalesce. They don't know everything about Kevin Roberts or J.D. Vance, who is morphing as we speak, right? 1 minute can't stand the sight of Donald Trump, next minute bowing at his feet. Okay, whatever it takes to assume the mantle of power. Then you got, again, Peter Thiel. I wonder, spirit, is there going to be like an implosion? Is there going to be like an implosion among these stakeholders? Kevin Roberts, Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance. We have the Queen of Pentacles. She comes up as a sovereign of coins in this deck. Somebody's going to ask, because they always do. This is the, here you go, in case you're interested. This is the Weaver Tarot. All right, so we've got the Queen of Pentacles that comes right out. What's going to fracture them is the divine feminine. That's it. Not just the whole notion of Kamala Harris and her ascension. And all of the excitement around her. But this is also, we've said for months now, we've looked at this and said at some point, the divine feminine is tired of this. And we will see a switch from a spiritual perspective. We're going to see energies. Can't make it up if I wanted to. There's the Tower. All right. So there is an implosion in place, you all. It's step by step. It's these people who have been behind the scenes, especially around Project 2025, because that's not just Kevin Roberts. We already know there are numerous people who were tied to Trump and Trump's administration, his insiders, his circles, who were involved in the formation of this 900 and something page document. So it's not just Kevin Roberts. I want to clarify that for sure. But for sure also he has been a leading spokesperson and mouthpiece for it. And he has this book that is set, that JD Vance wrote the foreword for, that is set for release, I think in September, if I'm not mistaken. Dawn's Early Light, Taking Back Washington to Save America. And that's scheduled for release. So Taking Back Washington to Save America. So Kevin Roberts, all of these people, they write books before they get ready to run for office, right? Before they get ready to make their move. But there's the tower, you all. I want to go back. I want to go a little deeper on the tower. We have the Ace of Cups. Yes, because that's Spirit confirming there will be a breakup, there will be a blow up, there will be a disintegration of this web. They're telling me this web that's been woven among these people who seek to destroy democracy and really just undo the fabric of America. So that's the tower. The Ace of Cups just came to back it up. This too is a feminine energy. It is a flowing and giving and life-giving energy. When we're looking at water, we're talking about the waters of life. We're talking about how joy is restored, and it is restored after that tower. Notice the beautiful wings that are on either side of that cup that Ace of Cups. All right. So yeah, 100%. This is the beginning of a dismantling. And the Six of Wands, that is the victory of the will of the people. The victory of the will of the people. That's how my spirit guides are giving it to me, you all. The victory of the will of the people. And it comes because it's almost as if it had to happen this way. At some point, what is done in the darkness always comes to light, right? That's a cliche, but cliches are what they are because they're often true. There's so many grains of truth in them. So what it took, can you imagine, 900 and some page document? How long was the Project 2025 put in the works? How long has that been? How long has that been sort of back in the shadows, being put together, being formulated? How many meetings were had? Who were in those meetings? That kind of thing. Then it came to light, and now it's being disseminated and dispersed, and eyes are really being open to what it truly means. If the Knight of Wands, it's catching on. The movement, the spiritual movement, is one that, while there will be a lot of MAGAs, spirit guides, the way I'm getting it is, there will be a lot of the MAGA faithful who simply feel obligated. They will feel guilty not to continue this walk with 45. They just feel obligated to do it. At the same time, there is a movement, Knight of Wands, wands being fire, being a very spiritual element. Their eyes are being opened. When Donald Trump said, we're going to fix it, you don't ever have to worry about doing this again, that sounded a little awkward to a lot of people who were still out there clapping to it. There was this, what does he mean by that? We don't have to worry about it again. Ultimately, do the MAGA faithful want a dictator? Or do they just want change? The Lovers. Donald Trump is a Gemini. The Lovers is ruled by Gemini, and Gemini also reflects choices that have to be made. And that is what I'm seeing, you all. This whole one thing after the next, and Project 2025 in a really twisted way, the guides are saying to me, in a really twisted way, it was a gift. And it was a gift that's going to keep giving in terms of the shock value of it is what was necessary to really open America's eyes to the true, real threat that is faced beyond 45. 45 was just the cover. 45 is just the cover. This is the choice. And the choice to be united in truth, to be united in the ideal of freedom, because what freedom do you have in a dictatorship, right? I think even the MAGA faithful are starting to open their eyes to that. Although that doesn't mean I do, and I also think what that does, Spirit, is that going to bring some swing voters or more independent voters, bring them to the polls, not just sit on the couch, not just not participate, but bring them to the polls. Ten of Cups, an outpouring, you all, a flow, an outpouring. This has really galvanized the threat of dismantling, truly the objective to dismantle government and take over people's lives, completely take over people's lives. And we have the Knight of Swords. Yes, lots of conversations around that. There's going to be an effort to mitigate some of the damage that's being done right now as the truth comes out, right? And as people can see with their own eyes and hear with their own ears what the truth of what the ultimate goal was here, what the end goal was here. It was being way beyond just getting 45 reelected. It really is about taking or 45 being the dictator of the country. His time, come on, he's almost 80 years old. That was not the plan. The plan was that just get it in there, get it through, because he had the face, he's got that popularity. But the plan was much deeper. Spirit, is there anything else you would like to say on this before I close out? I'm at 26 minutes. I went a little longer than I planned. The Three of Cups. Oh, what a card to end this on. Three of Cups. Celebrate, you all. Celebrate the momentum that we're having. You know, the enthusiasm, the encouragement, the joy that a lot of people are experiencing. Threes are collaboratives, and so you were talking about people coming together from all sectors of life, of our culture, of our democracy, and all coming together for a collective cause that we want to be free and we want to stay free. Okay, and so Kevin Roberts can go out there and write his little thesis and figure out, if we got the slaves in line, how do we get the, how do we tweak that process and get America in line? It ain't happening, you all. All right. Take good care. I'll talk to you real soon, and be safe out there. Chin up, shoulders back, breathe deep. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.